There are many examples and metaphors throughout the Old Testament of a typological foreshadowing of Christ. The shedding of blood for the remission of sins, the arrangement of the temple, and the brazen serpent. The Old Testament is our schoolmaster and leads us to the truths of the New Testament in a way that is clearer to the intent of the Creator. Moses was one of these types of examples of the Christ to come. From the events surrounding his birth, the miracles God performed through him, and his abrupt end. It is worth comparing the lives of Moses and Jesus to see the similarities that they shared. The nation of Israel was bitter in bondage at the hands of Egypt. Israel grew in numbers and they would outnumber the Egyptians. So Pharaoh ordered that the midwives drown the male children to keep their population down. Before the Egyptian midwives would arrive, the Hebrew women would already have delivered their babies and hidden it if it were a male. This mandate was in effect for young Moses. His mother hid him for 3 months, but she made a basket when she could not hide him any longer and sent him down the river. Pharaoh's daughter found Moses and raised him as her own, using his mother as his caretaker. Moses grew and the bondage of his people grew. Killing an Egyptian for hitting a Hebrew, he escaped into the wilderness. Here Moses had an encounter with God. The deliverer that the people were praying for was coming. He accomplished many signs and wonders to convince Pharaoh to let God's people go. Upon leaving Egypt, the Hebrews tried to cling to their old ways and wandered the desert for their lack of faith. In the wilderness, he used God's instructions to write the law. Moses had an incident of anger, and he was not allowed to fulfill the culmination of his work by leading the Hebrews into the promised land. Years later, Israel once again found itself under foreign rule. This king had heard of the birth of another deliverer and ordered the murder of innocent babies. Jesus was born, and his parents hid him in Egypt until Herod was dead. Coming out of Egypt, Jesus grew, and so did the anticipation of the Messiah. Jesus went down into the river where John was baptizing, and departed that place into the wilderness to fast for 40 years' days. Signs and wonders filled his ministry. He had many followers, and he said he would write the law in their hearts. Many devout Jews tried to cling to the old ways, finding a way to crucify him. While Jesus' earthly ministry was short, his followers continued his legacy today, and one day he will return to lead his people into the promised land. It is an incredible story to me that the similarities you can paint from the life of Moses. Whereas Moses represented the law and established the nation of Israel, Jesus brought a new covenant and established a church. The Hebrews did not build their promised land, but Jesus said, "I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, ye may be there also." There's no room for comparison when it comes to the deity and the sacrifice of Jesus. It is interesting to watch throughout time the developing order to lead us to the purpose and mission of Jesus Christ. I am grateful for the glimpses of the Lord in the Old Testament that come to my understanding.